Okay, welcome back. Pirate Utopia, part 17. Uh, this episode is featuring human-shaped animal, Rachel Barnes. I'm very excited to share not only an amazing artist, but also just an all-around killer human being, fearless and inspiring in many ways. So I don't know if you've had a chance to see the show, but we basically talk to artists and our friends about their work, cryptocurrency as well, and kind
Mhm.
of like what they're doing now. And it's not really like a serious interview or anything like that. It's just more of an online.
Chilling.
So
Yeah,
welcome.
I just watched Julian's and Paul's.
Julian's episode has been very popular.
Of course, it's Julian. Like, what about Julian is not entertaining?
I know. He was amazing. Like, yeah, it was just perfect. It was just perfect that it all worked out. And then I heard that you guys had hung out not that long ago.
Yeah, so for New Year's Eve, Julian like planted this little seed and he's like, let's go to the desert. And I was like, yes, totally. I hadn't seen him in like 2 years. And yeah, he flew out. We went to Joshua Tree with some peeps and brought it in right.
Nice.
Yeah, it's always a good one to see.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah,
Successful.
he's just always like makes me smile and like just
Yeah.
like, oh yeah, life isn't that serious. Like
No, not at all. And then like I could just like listen to his stories for like ever. I'm just like, what is the life that you live?
Yeah, yeah, he's quite a character. He is. But without further ado, I mean, let's get into this interview, whatever.
Shall
What
we?
do you think about aliens?
Aliens. Oh, good way to start off the show. I think with the right interaction with aliens, I think that we could be on a good path.
But
But
do you think it's real with all this stuff that's coming out with all the UFO disclosure and I mean
I
I
mean,
also because
it
you
just has. It's not like it's just coming out. I feel like this has been this sort of information has been passed on for forever. But with all like, oh, we saw a UFO 50 years ago or 100 years ago. But
uh,
yeah, what have you been seeing recently that has sparked this for you?
oh the alien thing?
Uh-huh.
I guess like the CIA just recently like released like every single document they have on
What?
UFOs just for public
Uh-huh.
knowledge for yeah, it's been under wraps for years and they just let it out. And yeah, I mean they're just
What
basically
did it
saying like hey,
say?
there's straight up we know that there's flying, other things that have flying machines that we don't understand and they're just admitting to it. And I'm excited, like, and like I love aliens, and I always have thought about like, yeah, I bet they're real. But now that it's like real, like,
Uh-huh.
and I'm even like trying to like, sometimes I like to paint kind of alien planets and stuff, and like I love the idea of aliens. But now that it's real, it's like it doesn't feel real. Like it doesn't feel like the way I thought it'd be all over the news or something.
I know it's weird when the media starts like putting their input into it because it's kind of like I feel like everyone has their own fantasy about how it works out. But then once someone else starts putting in their input and they're like, oh no, this is what it is, it's just like, well, I actually pictured it more like this. So it kind of breaks that like fantasy, I think, a little bit.
Uh-huh.
And you're like, oh. And then it's also like, well, if they're saying it's true, part of me wants to automatically be like, oh, it can't be true then. Like,
Right, right. That's a good point.
but yeah, I'm pro alien. I think we'd be super egotistical to say that we weren't like that we were the only beings here in the universe. Like that doesn't make sense. So there's stuff out there.
So the human-shaped animal believes.
Yeah, maybe I should be human shaped alien. Maybe that's
Ooh.
my what I'll graduate to.
So what's the story behind the HSA name? Where did that come from?
Yeah, so I was sitting in a sociology class and my professor just like said it in passing. He was just like, we're all just human shaped animals, blah, 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 blah. Went on with his lecture. And that just like, I was like, oh, that's the best thing I've ever heard. Like, this like makes so much sense to me. Um, and yeah, in 2000 and I don't know, maybe like 13 or 12, I like started making jewelry and I wanted a name for it. And so I was like, human shaped animal. Oh, here comes someone. Hi.
Aaron.
We'll catch him up to speed and then we'll
yeah.
dive back in.
Yeah. So, Rachel believes in aliens. Aaron, we just had to get that out of the way with all no disclosures. It's clear they're here.
There's an elephant in the room here.
Yeah. And then we're kind of getting into the backstory of human-shaped animal, which is her. Is that what you prefer to go by as like your artist name?
Oh yeah, for sure. There is like weirdly like so many Rachel Barneses in the world. Oh. You go to Facebook and you put in Rachel Barnes. You could just like scroll for like a good like couple minutes. Just like there's tons of us out there. And like personally, I never really like felt like a Rachel Barnes. Just like I don't know, it wasn't working for me. And so like so human shaped animal. I used it to begin with for jewelry that I was making, just so it had a brand name. And then I just started using that basically, you know, as my pen name or whatever. And so like for the most part too, you can't really like look up my work by Rachel Barnes. It's kind of, I've molded it so it's all under human shaped animal. And I don't know, there's just there's something nice about like people not knowing exactly who it is. I mean, obviously it's like super easy to figure out that it's me or whatever, but when you see the human shaped animal, it's like you don't know if it's a guy or a girl or whatever. And there's something about like creating this, not identity, but just like working under this brand that is me, but just like I feel like I've created that more than I've created Rachel Barnes.
Musicians have been doing that, you know, since forever.
Exactly,
right?
they get a name.
Yes.
Yeah, and then there's a good amount of artists, you know, that you have their art name, you know. So yeah, and it's been building since then, and then it's just kind of encompassed whatever I do. And then I have my like kind of logo here, human shaped animal. So I like to throw that on things too, because also my signature, I never liked my signature as Rachel Barnes. And then writing out human shaped animal is just like super long. So it's kind of nice to just have like a little stamp. Yeah.
I dig it.
Yeah, and then I just put it everywhere, as you can see.
Oh, wow. Where are you? Are you at your studio or? Yeah,
so I'll give you a tour either now or whenever it pops up. But basically,
let's do it.
Okay, sweet. So this is my little nook. So basically, I am and so heads up, it's a mess. It's like a complete wreck. We're changing everything. So there's 6 of us that are in here, and it was a studio / gallery space. So I joined it back in January, and then the world shut down. So our gallery was no longer a gallery. Let's see where the best way to do this. So basically, like we have this huge space.
Oh wow.
So this was all gallery, like just white wall gallery. At the beginning of last year, we built a wall there, which looked like this one, and then it had kind of like how this. Sorry, this is probably so confusing. So behind this wall is 3 different studio spaces. Dun, dun, dun.
Wow.
And then this one, the girl was in the middle moving out. And so we had 3 more of them on this side, which doesn't exist anymore. So basically when COVID happened, we were like, this is going to be like our living room. Yeah. It's like basically like, this is a place where we can hang out and feel safe and like, it's not shut down. And it was super weird because it was the beginning of the 6 of us coming together, and like we were going to start this project of running this gallery and everything. And then, so recently we took this wall that we built, we cut it in half, and then we stuck it on wheels. So both of those are on wheels. So we're going to start being able to really play with the space. Because basically what we do now is we just have really big speakers, and we just hang out, blast music in here. And it's all kind of shifted because originally the two girls that started it, their vision was white wall gallery. It's not like super interesting to me.
Normal.
And then 4 of us joined, and I always wanted it to be more like installation based or like interactive almost. So then once everything happened, we had to get some new members because actually the 2 girls that started it are pregnant, and so they're kind of like phasing out of this. And so we're reworking the whole idea, and basically at the moment we're just going to make it cool for us. So in these next 2 weeks, I'm going to like mural out this whole area. This is the wall that was in the center of it that's cut. I'm not really sure what to do with it yet. And then like now our newer members are DJs. So they have all their DJ equipment, and we're gonna make this into a rad DJ booth. And yeah, just make cool shit, I guess.
This is awesome. This is all in Santa Cruz?
Yeah, so this is in Santa Cruz. This place was called the Art Cave before. Now we're like still trying to figure out exactly because we're just rebranding it, because since both the girls who started it are leaving, just makes sense to like start fresh. Yeah, and we're gonna do some live streams, and yeah, so I feel like there's so much to tell you. There's so much to catch up on. So one of the guys who's in here with me, Jordan Layman, he owns a makerspace that's right across the hall from here. And so that's where all the laser cutters are. And that's a lot of my work. I use the laser cutter. And like CNC router, 3D printer, all the like whole wood shop. So everything's there for us to like create stuff. And Jordan does like all like LEDs and sound and like super like Burning Man installations, like big art. And so yeah, we're kind of just like taking my want of muraling and installations, his whole LED audio, our DJs, and basically just gonna make it like a super sweet stage, whatever setup. Yeah.
Badass. What a cool little like crew you found yourself in.
Yeah, it's like all kind of just like worked out weirdly, and it all, as things do. But yeah, and it's just like the best part is just like having a space to play with, like being like, okay, we want to build this big thing, like let's build this big thing, or let's like experiment with this or that. Or Jordan does these like crazy geometric lamp things.
Mm-hmm.
That are kind of like so.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, and then they're all like different settings that he's programmed and whatnot. But yeah, so we're gonna start I'm gonna start collaborating with him on that and adding plants in the center somehow.
Ooh.
Yeah, plants. We got to think of a better name for it, but that's the idea.
Plant your plant right here.
What's that?
Plop your plant right here.
Exactly. Yeah. So add it to everything. But yeah, so it's just like it's nice to have just the ability to have a space to play with and have access to all the tools and all the things and have different people of different backgrounds to be able to execute it. And then I think like we were just talking yesterday of building a second floor on top of this wall. And just like expanding our space. Because like at the beginning of this, we were doing these parties where the art cave and the Fab Lab, that's the makerspace, throw these parties where it's like they would have an artist and it would be their art show, but then we'd also have bands and DJs, and then there'd be interactive art things, and we were building it up to even have like airless silk artists, and like when you got there, you got this like keychain with a chip that would interact with different things. So we were starting to do these I think we're going to do like 4 a year, and it was starting to build up to like bigger and better and whatever. And so with everything closing and that not happening, we're trying to kind of figure out how we can still do that in a micro way here.
Mm-hmm.
And like maybe when things start opening up, like we can have small groups come in here and like enjoy a more intimate show with crazy art and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. It looks like Aaron's laptop died. Oh well.
I know, I had that same fear.
Oh really?
And I was like, I hope they're at my charger.
Wow. Well, I'm stoked for you because I feel like the last time I was like, we kicked it was probably like 4 or 5 years ago, and there was a lot of these things were kind of like, I mean, I've probably crossed paths with you in Santa Cruz, but not really like, not really got the full update of what's been going on for you, and just only seeing online like. Didn't you do a big project with was it for Yahoo or somebody out there in like Silicon Valley?
Yeah, so like it was funny. I answered like a Craigslist ad for murals. Like every once in a while, I'll be like, oh, just like see if there's anything, and like hardly ever anything comes of it.
Uh-huh.
And it didn't say anything about Yahoo in it. And I had answered it, even though when he was going to do the interviews was like 2 weeks past the date and everything. But I was like, I'll just throw it out there, see what happens. Forgot about it. Yeah, and then the head artist, hit me up and he was like, yeah, I think you're a good fit. And so we had a guy who was like designed it, though we had some input in application and everything. But it was sweet. It was the first time I like worked with, first and only time. Well, first real time that I worked with another artist to execute their design and on a team. And so it was for Yahoo's like cafeteria. And so these huge walls, some were like 30 feet tall. So it was like super cool, like just working in a team and like executing something that large.
Yeah, it looked awesome, and I just like just to be around like just to be going to work to like paint a mural. I think
it's the best.
Yeah,
driving around like scissor lifts and stuff. But like the one day we like went to the very top of the wall and just poured paint down it, and I was like, I'm getting paid for this. This is great. Like just like here we go.
That's
sick. And he was just like he was a great guy. Just like a really awesome experience to work underneath someone and have it just like work the flow just like went really well.
That's awesome. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've been wanting to invite you on because there's like a number of I think it's true for many artists. I mean, it certainly was true for me and still serves true at certain times where like I will tell myself that like, oh, someday I'm gonna be this artist, right? Like eventually I'll be this artist that's going to work every day as the artist. But like for now, I'm like working at the grocery store, I'm drawing in my sketchbook, I'm doing this and that. But like I think it's true. There can be a point where you are working at the grocery store, and then you eventually can survive purely off your art. But at the same time, like I wonder if you have anything to speak to more of the beginner artists that's kind of like they know they want to do this, but they're having a little bit of like, you kind of have to like jump a little bit and like just have faith that you're going to get the next thing and the next thing, and that you're creative enough to professionally be an artist, which might mean, you might have to do some gigs that are random here and there.
Yeah, absolutely. Like it's definitely like a phasing out. I think it's been like a year or two, probably like almost 2 years where I've done solely art for the most part. But like I slowly like weaned myself down further and further. And luckily I usually had like some cool gigs that would supplement it. Like I had like, it's like working a festival booth. So I got to like travel around, but then would still have like between festivals, like 2 or 3 weeks that I got to just do art, and then I'd be gone for a week or two and then I'd come back. So, but yeah, it's definitely a like continuous trust fall. And for me, the more I like trust in it, the more it holds me like completely. And it is like, there's going to be I don't know. I don't know I don't know what's going to happen next month, or like I don't have things planned out. I mean, I have some projects planned out, but it's kind of like projects just pop up when you need them, and it just somehow keeps working out. So I think a big part is like the energetics of it. Like if you're throwing your whole self into it and like taking that leap, there's a good chance that it's going to catch you and like help you out. Now I know that's not the case for everyone. So there are other things that go into it. I think it's important to like continually be exploring. Like if you land, it's good to like figure out your style and like what your thing is, but then like keep taking it further, keep like up leveling basically. So I think if you're doing that and people, and it's great nowadays, like having social media is like, as an artist, it's like, I mean, it has its pros and cons. Basically, because you're kind of stuck in having social media. At least I kind of feel like that. Like it's sometimes it'd be like, oh, it'd be nice to just like get rid of my social media. But I'm like, that's where I get my gigs and like how I sell my art and like all that jazz.
Yeah.
But to be able to share it and like for people to see it and it just like whoever is like a big thing. So I think definitely share your stuff, get your stuff out there. Even just like First Friday shows and all that, whenever that pops up again. But yeah, I would definitely say that like the biggest thing is just like trusting in it a little bit.
So like you'd say you're pretty comfy in that unknown spot nowadays.
Yeah, I've gotten used to it. Like I try not to like question it too much. I feel like if I overthink it, then it's gonna like disappear and not work out. So I'm just like kind of like, okay, I'm not gonna question how it's working and how things just pop up when they need to pop up. But yeah, and I mean I've definitely like, you know, you live a more simpler lifestyle. That's definitely for sure. Like it's not like I'm getting a paycheck every week. Like so you just have to be flexible too. And just like you said, sometimes do gigs where it's like, well, I'm not like super jazzed on what they want, but like why not? It's still like sometimes is a job-ish. Mm-hmm. But yeah. So I think definitely just like keep exploring. And like don't pigeonhole yourself either. I think like it's important to like, okay, maybe you make little paintings, but like you kind of have to figure out because like how you can work with people. Like for instance, doing murals or doing like even digital design, doing things that are for people. So then it's more of a co-creating or whatnot rather than just, I only do paintings. So it's kind of nice to get a little creative with how you can supplement different ways of using your creativity.
Yeah, one thing that I find is like hard is like how do you like a lot of times like if you want really fast growth, you have to like super focus, so it's like you want to explode. You're like, I do, anime style drawings of, rabbits killing each other or something like that. And if you just post that like every day, you'll get followers really quick. Mm-hmm. But, then you try to switch it up and everyone's going to be like, yeah, this is lame. I don't want to.
I
thought like, you were this,
when a band does that for their like next album and you're like, but I liked like what they were doing before. Like, why did they change it? So it's like, yeah, and I think there's something to morphing a little bit at a time to like make multiple genres happy. It's like, okay, well, this works. I like this style. But if I add a little bit of this style, then all of a sudden, like, maybe the people that are interested in one or the other still grasp onto it because it has elements of what they're like drawn to.
Here's a question. So would you say you have lots of influences? Like, are your influences eclectic? Like lots of different sources of inspiration?
Oh, absolutely. And it changes constantly. Like, I feel like I like almost feel more like a collage artist sometimes because I feel like I am just taking pieces of things that I see or inspiration from like whatever too. Like my Pinterest boards are very dialed in. And like I think that's a good thing for artists and any kind of creative is just like keep gathering things that you like just like anything, like, oh, I like that architecture on this building, like I'm gonna put this over here, I'm gonna like have a folder for just color schemes or just like, you know, these anything, these geometric patterns go over here and all this, oh, nature, all these nature photos here, and like kind of like really just paying attention to what lights you up and then making it your own and constantly doing that. Because I mean, it's the same thing with music for me too. Like I'm interested in such a variety of it, which like keeps things interesting, I feel like. So yeah, and there's just like so much art out there, and there's like so much to consume, and then
well, because the struggle is like I've always really valued as part of my identity that I'm very like eclectic in my tastes, you know, like I like to listen to all sorts of different music, metal, country, whatever.
yeah.
But I feel like in a weird way, this thought has been coming up where it's like that's holding me back because it's making it more difficult for me to like find an identity, you know, like to kind of own in on who is your audience. So it's like, oh yeah, I do metal and this and that and this and that, and then eventually that just sounds like a hodgepodge, and it sounds like you're trying to make something for everyone. And like, you know, the struggle is you can't really make art for everyone. You have to find at least the small audience, and then it grows from there. So
Totally.
how have you found your identity with so many influences?
Yeah, I mean, when I look at like my art in a timeline form, I feel like I definitely have honed in on a style that like can at times definitely be recognizable as my own. Um, I do like to do things in like almost collections, I guess, where it's like this collection is definitely like way more colorful and like much more design looking. And then like maybe the next collection will be more earthy and more painterly. I try to like keep elements of all of it together. Like I really like having painterly parts next to like just flat, whatever, like and geometric. Like I think that is what my style is the combination of the things. Um, and I think like when I was in school, that was like my biggest thing is trying to like hone in on like what my style would be. Because I mean, it's great if you can like mimic everyone and like do a really awesome painting, but it's like, oh, I've seen that before. Like I know what that looks like. So I think what I strive is kind of like try to make something that I haven't seen before. And then for me, I add a lot of living plants to my art. And I think so like having that is my like
Yeah.
stamp. So like then I can just work around that idea. And it is like totally like sometimes I do feel like I'm like, wow, like that thing's way different than that thing. And I don't know if that's good. But like I feel like to keep myself interested in things, like I need to kind of be flowing in and out of different styles. But then it is also nice because I feel like for murals, it can be so much louder and like it's like you have like more room to just like really make something crazy. Whereas with like some smaller pieces, it's like, oh, well, like this has to live in someone's home. Like sometimes scaling back just a little bit is nice. So like getting that like itch scratched for both is kind of nice. Like sometimes having smaller things, sometimes having bigger things. Like So I definitely do flow between it, but yeah, I hope that it like more translates as the style is evolving rather than just like completely changing. Yeah.
I love that idea of the plants in the paintings. Like, are you familiar with the solar punk aesthetic or like solar punk at all?
No, but I like the sound of it.
Yeah, I've been super fascinated by it. So it's like it's sort of an offshoot of like cyberpunk obviously and all of those different kinds of things, but it's at a bent where it's the goal is to make speculative like sci-fi futuristic worlds that are positive instead of like dystopian, So
Totally.
a lot of it is like incorporate like buildings that incorporate plants and nature and things that are like it's like biopunk or weird things like that, which
Oh yeah, that's totally up my
yeah
alley. Yeah, absolutely. Cool. I'll definitely. Well, there's another little rabbit hole I can go down. Start
another hashtag you can put on your stuff there.
Yeah, exactly.
Solar punk.
But yeah, I think, and that's like what I want to do, and I've kind of started, but is like I love doing paintings and stuff, but like where my like real passion is definitely going is into like installations and murals and figuring out how plants could live within them and like make it more of a whole like experience rather than just like one piece.
That's fucking badass. Yeah, I wanted to do some event, like I did some like kind of experimental experiential events and stuff, or before COVID I was doing a lot of that, and I really wanted to figure out how to do like more things with plants. Like I want to have like a crazy trippy party in a succulent garden or something, just stuff like that, like
I know we're like trying to like figure out how so you kind of your computer died, but I was kind of explaining our space because I'm kind of in a collective
oh yeah, I saw that. Yeah,
and so yeah, we want to like figure out how to like hang plants from our ceiling, even though they're like 20 feet tall. Or like we'll make a pulley system. Like, everything we talk about, we're like, how can we put a plant on it though? So I was saying to Jesse, so one of my studio mates makes these lamps, and like they're all LED and they do their thing. And so we're gonna make clamps where we have the lamp, but a plant in the center of it. So like that's basically like that's what we've been doing.
Just put a plant on it, and it's
put a plant on it, and you're good.
You're gold. You need to trademark plants now.
I was like, it's kind of like it's not the most pretty of a word, but like it gets the message across. But yeah, so I'm kind of stoked because what we're going to be working on these next couple of weeks in here is so like, we have our two walls like that. Actually, maybe I can show you. Maybe I can share my screen. I don't know, Gene.
Yeah.
So I've just been like making it on Illustrator, doing the design. But basically, like we're gonna have this middle table thing. We're gonna turn it into a DJ booth. And Jordan, the LED guy, is gonna LED it all crazy and whatnot. And then these desks and stuff won't be here. And so then I'm gonna mural these, both walls, and then the center back wall. And then we're gonna add lots of plants. And the plants are going to hang from that thing. Okay, let's see if I can share what is gonna happen. I'm excited to try working on these walls because we just cut them and put them on casters. So we can start playing with the space more, which is like super exciting for us. Because eventually we want people to be able to come in and it being an experience. Like installation, DJ, interactive, blah blah blah. I haven't zoomed in a while. How do I share?
Let's see. I may have to make you a host or something.
If not, it's all good. Oh, well, I'm a co-host now.
Da, 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 da.
Ta-da!
Use the power responsibly.
Oh no. I'm like, what's going on? I'm like all behind the screen.
Yeah.
Okay.
What tabs are open? Oh shit.
Let me just go like these.
Uh,
Okay, speaking of view,
You know, the movable wall thing has been a thought for, because they have these things in hotels to like divide up huge ballrooms called airlocks, and they have these walls that kind of transfer. They're like attached to the ceiling, and you kind of move them
oh,
around,
so
and
great.
then you can hook them. I always thought it'd be cool to create a system of those where you could actually change where the locks go, and you could like, so every time you go into a space, it has just different walls. You know, like a different
That's like,
configuration.
we even literally have started putting everything on casters. Like,
Yeah.
all of our stuff, we're like, we should put that on a caster so we can move it
Yeah.
around. Like, that's like our goal, is like have the whole space be just like interchangeable and like move things and like, yeah, that's
Casters and plants. I love it.
mm-hmm. All right, so I'm not sure if I can share, but anyway, yeah, we're gonna go hard on decking this whole area out. But I'm excited to work with the fact that this is cornered like that, or however it's cornered. You can see it. And work with some like weird perspective things. I don't know how it's gonna work out yet, because like the way I have it designed, the perspective comes out, but it's centered in that wall, which goes in.
Mm-hmm.
So hopefully it turns into just like this huge mind fuck, and you're just like, what's happening?
Have you done any perspective work like that before?
With walls that go the opposite, like with
I guess really anything, like it's essentially like a forced perspective, right? Where you paint and it from one, when you stand in one place, it looks like it's 3-dimensional or whatever.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't done too much of like that kind of idea. I have worked with definitely illusions. Like I love
Yeah.
optical illusions and space. Um, we did a neat uh, so Jordan helped me out, who owns the Fab Lab, and that's the maker space with the laser cutters and all the CNC routers and whatnot. But we did two of them, two murals, where we did them in pieces. So it was like 20 pieces, or no, it was like 12 pieces, but 20-foot mural by like 10 feet. And then some of the pieces are on top of, in front of the other pieces. And so like that was really cool to start playing with those illusions, because then other pieces, we'd have the illusion of it like sitting back, or the other ones where it looked like it was an actual shape. So yeah, we just want to play with all the things. And like I would love to like get into like, because we're trying to figure out what exactly we are, all of us together, like what are we doing with this space. But definitely like a couple of us, what we're interested in is like taking all these ideas of the lights and installations and like taking experiences to places and just like decking out their situation for however long. And yeah, and just there's just like there's so much possibility, especially when we have all the tools. It's like we can cut anything, and like, you know, I don't have the tool set of lights and stuff, but I can start learning that, and he knows how to do all that and the programming and whatnot. And we really want to like figure out how it can be interactive and getting people more involved, instead of just like going to a show and like looking at it, and like that's awesome experience in itself. But I think like, especially coming out of like this whole situation we're in, like getting people more interacting with things, I think is going to be.
I mean, that's totally the trend ever since like Meow Wolf and like other things like that have been popping up. It's just like, yeah, I think people are hungry for it too. People really love it. There's a couple spaces here in Texas now that are doing it, which is crazy. So
yeah, like it's like, and like those things stick with you too, like
oh totally,
when you go, and like, yeah, it's just like make it interesting for people.
Yeah. I mean, having the space is really like, I think the most important part. Like from there, I mean, obviously there's a lot, but for us, like the challenge was always that we were never able to get like a regular space where we were allowed to kind of like fuck with it. Like the problem was always like the spaces that we would rent out for our events were always had their own character, which was cool. But it's like, but I want it to be a jungle, you know, or I want it to be a this or that, you know. And they're like, yeah, we don't want that. That's not
like,
what
no.
Yeah. So that the fact that y'all have essentially a white wall, a canvas that you can just like deck out however y'all want, and you can switch it up now with the movable walls, like that. I mean, it's just trial and error now. Just like do whatever, like see what works and see what doesn't, you know.
Yeah, and it's like we're all here. Like,
yeah.
you know, especially like we have the time, and like it's nice to like, because I mean not all members are in the same situation that myself and Jordan are in, where like we can dedicate all of our time to this. But yeah, like finding people that are like equally stoked just to create, like yeah, we would love to figure out how to make money off of it and eventually, but like that's not like our core drive, which I feel like when that is your core drive, it doesn't work out. So yeah, just to have people pumped to like be like, yeah, let's build this, even if we're the only ones going to enjoy it, like why not? And also like a lot of these ideas, especially with like incorporating plants into it and stuff, people aren't going to know that I have that available to give them unless I can show them it. And not necessarily someone's going to let me try it out on their space. So to have this and be like, oh, we could also do this to your space is like pretty sweet. Like, yeah, great idea. I'll show you something, take you on a tour. Because it's cool, because this building also lets us kind of do some stuff to it, which is sweet, like to the outside areas. Okay, so it's a pretty cool building. So it's called the Wrigley Building.
Wow.
And it used to be the Wrigley Gum Factory, like chewing gum.
That's cool.
Yeah, so there's a bunch of startups here and whatnot. This is Idea Fab Labs.
Nice.
But they let me do this.
Oh yeah. Sweet.
So yeah, that lives there, which is fun.
Yeah,
see? I told you. Yeah,
they're here, they're there.
There's probably people in here, but I want to show you the mural I was talking about. 1 second. Oh, so this is a Fab Lab. This is where we have all our tools. Oh, Jordan made this ceiling.
Oh, sweet.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Hexagons.
Yeah, and so he also does like stage stuff. There's like pieces of it. But yeah, so this was the mural. Let's see. Here's our laser cutters. But yeah, so this mural is the one I was talking about, where we did it in pieces and then put it up on the wall. So like that's another cool that's another cool thing to experiment with, especially if people like don't necessarily want to commit to like doing this whole thing on their wall. It's like, well, I could do it in pieces and just bring it to you and put it on, and then you can take it wherever you want if you move. That's kind of like a nice option. But yeah, so those are those things. And this was like our original. So it was all glass, like open and being able to see in all the time. But since it became our living room, we have curtained it up.
So Rachel, as somebody, as an artist with your skill level, and you've obviously you've accomplished a lot, and you've now are professionally living off solely your art for 2 years now. You obviously have some sort of process to execute your pieces. Now, I'm curious, do you have the same type of process for like getting inspiration or visions, or do you do any vision questing or plant medicine or anything like that to strike inspiration, or what do you draw inspiration from, or what fires you up, I guess?
Okay, so yeah, I mean, I definitely have interacted with plant medicine, which helps. Or I mean, I think I think just like getting different perspectives from time to time is good. But so my process, a lot of it, like it's definitely evolved. I'll usually start with like some Pinterest boards where I'll just start gathering images, like just pulling images of like what I'm into in the moment or whatever. And then I do most of the designing digitally, which like really helps me because I mean, I've had some projects where like I'm just gonna start it, and then I end up like staring at it for like 3 hours and I haven't done anything to it. I'm just like, I don't know. So to like map it out digitally first, especially because I can just like change all the colors instantly. I can move things around and like then compare them against each other design wise, instead of like painting it on there and then being like, that's not right. Get rid of that, painting it on there. Oh, that's not right either. So that process has opened up like just really being able to hone in on things. I mean, I still leave room for figuring it out, or I figure out part of it and then jump in. And then because I use the laser cutter to cut like my own pieces, I have to do some of it digital because it needs to be turned in, vectors and then communicate to the machine and all that jazz. And what I'll do a lot of the time is I'll laser in some of the design. I don't think I have any pieces that are nude at the moment. But like, for instance, just bring you to me. So like,
going on a journey.
This is etched in. So like, so I'm not like, I do the work beforehand so that I don't have to measure it all out and do it. So it's almost like I give myself some guides. So then part of it is just painting it in, and then manipulating it that way. And yeah, and so like building it is nice because it gives me a lot of freedom to like not be in a square. Like I can have edges and I can have holes and cutouts and all sorts of stuff. But then, it takes time to like, then you have to cut out the pieces on the back and make all the backing and like do all the things. So it's not anymore for me just sitting down and painting. Now it's a lot of back work first, which I really enjoy actually. And then I'm still doing the painting thing, so I'm still enjoying that. But yeah, so that's kind of the process. Yeah. And it could be, sometimes it could come real quick, and sometimes so it's a slippery slope being able to do it digitally because you can tweak everything. Yeah. And it's like, all right, I've changed the color of this thing 42 times, and I can't even remember, like, it's like, it doesn't even matter at that point, like, just choose color, like, or I like move that shape over a millimeter and put it back and forth. So like, sometimes it's like 10 hours later and I'm like, my brain's fried from looking at the computer screen forever. And I'm just like, well, I don't know if I actually accomplished anything. But yeah, so did I answer your full question? I feel like there's multiple layers to it.
I was just curious if you had like a process for like, I need a vision or something like that, and try to, some people do like a closed eye visualization thing. I personally don't, but I'll definitely do like a plant medicine whole day in nature type of thing.
Yeah.
Sometimes that will like set off the light bulb, but I didn't know if you had like something that's like Here's my
Yeah, so I mean, it just all depends. It depends on what the project is. And like, kind of like how I was talking about, I'll do things in like series, like I'll kind of like grasp onto an idea and then do multiple pieces within that. And so that could be sparked by, you know, a plant medicine day situation or a road trip or just really anything. Um, yeah, and then like for me, I can sometimes visualize it like in my head, but like I'm definitely a more like have the elements in front of me and rearrange them, you know. Yeah.
That's interesting. Yeah, I mean, coming from like kind of the audio side, like I make a lot of music and stuff. So to me, it's just like, how do people think about like visually what, yeah, like what you're gonna paint? But yeah, it's so it sounds like to me like you'll see an idea, you'll be like, oh, what if I did like a cool shape with something like that, and then through the process of like making it, you refine it further into like the vision, or well, I don't know, maybe not the vision, but just whatever it's going to become.
Yeah, absolutely. And like even sometimes with like the meaning of pieces or like what they mean to me or whatever is not always known at the beginning, and then it's like through the process you kind of like figure out more of it, or like, oh, that's kind of like, because I mean there's definitely like subconscious stuff that comes through too that you don't even really realize until it's like there in front of you. um but yeah, and it's kind of like you sit down and it's like it's with anyone being creative, it's like what do you even make when you can make anything? Like,
Yeah.
like where do you start?
Do you give yourself restrictions, like creative constraints?
um I mean, I'll definitely work with like for commissions for sure. um but sometimes it's really nice having constraints actually,
Yeah.
because like I find that like my decision making skills are uh very scattered, and just like I'll just drive myself crazy sometimes because I just like can't decide between what. So having constraints, it's like it's nice to start like putting yourself in a like having a box you can be in. That way you are it almost makes you more creative sometimes because you have to work with those things. Um, so yeah, that's helpful.
Yeah, I've been really trying to this year I'm really trying to institute some constraints, because I like the thing you were saying about like working digitally, like yeah, I run into that trap so much, because like I'm making music digitally, so it's I can make any version. I could
Yeah,
just get rid of that section and put a new section and added this part, and maybe I just delete that, and it's like at a certain point you need to just be like, it needs to be done, so like figure
yeah,
out what that is. 5 minutes, if it's longer than 5 minutes, then or whatever. At least for me, time is a constraint. But
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and there's at some point where you're like, I just need to finish this so I can move
yeah.
on. Like, just get it done.
What
Yeah,
about
and also
naming?
like with like color schemes too, like sometimes it can get really out of control. Sometimes I'm cool about it, like having every single color in there, but like it is like difficult to be like, okay, I'm going to only use this small color scheme. I'm gonna stay in it, and I like veer off, and I'm like, well, that didn't happen this time, so maybe next time. But like I did a there was like a couple months where I was like really into just doing super simple designs, and they had the plant in it, so like that was an element that like helped. um but like sometimes the simpler is harder because it's like it's just, yeah, I don't know why, at least for me. I mean, I'm sure some people have a way easier time of just doing like, oh, and it's done, instead of just like adding all the things. But yeah.
Would you say you're like really prolific, like you're constantly like finishing things, or do you like work on a piece for a long time and really let it gestate and take your time and then finish it, or like, or maybe you flip between those?
Yeah, so I like to have multiple things going on at once, and usually that's kind of how it works too. So I can like And I know like there's some painters that will work on a piece for like forever, like months and months and months, or like up to a year. And I would really actually like would like to try to do that. Like, but I'm more of like a just, I don't know, I'm sure, especially with murals, you have to be fast.
Yeah.
And like some muralists, I'm like, how are they doing that whole, like this whole wall in like 5 days? Like it just blows my mind when I've been like working on this little painting for like a month now. So yeah, it's kind of been like a balance of like trying out both. But it's also like, especially because I design most of it first, I know what the end result's going to be. And so I'm like kind of eager to just get to that, because some of it's just like, all right, well, and like I'm painting this and I just kind of want to be done painting it. Like I just want it to be like that part complete, like it's enjoyable, but like, yeah. So I just did a little bit of both.
Interesting.
So we haven't talked about any of your like fire spinning or like the hoop dancing or any of that. And I'm just going out on a limb here. Is that your spiritual practice? That type of like movement and dance and flow?
Totally. Yeah. Like movement meditation is definitely like my jam. Because I like can't sit still. Which maybe that should probably be more of my meditation, because I can't sit still. Like I should sit and try that because it's difficult. But no, like dance and hula hooping are definitely like that's how I get wherever. um but yeah, I was movement has always been like a big part of my life, but it wasn't dancing. I was in sports. Like I was like athletic and just like in sports in high school, and like as a child, take up all your time. Like if I worked out that much every day, like that's just like kind of like, how do people do that? I guess they don't now. But so then like after like getting out of that, I like still wanted to move, and I've always loved dancing. And I'm actually kind of glad that I wasn't a trained dancer, because I feel like, I feel like it becomes too much. And that's how sports was too. Like it just becomes too serious. And like it's especially with dance, like you're being taught all the movements and such, rather than like them coming from somewhere new. Um, so yeah, and then with hula hooping, I saw it at like a festival and was just like, oh my god, like I'm gonna do that. Like that's like I was just like super mesmerized. And muscle memory is like something I really love. I think it comes back to like the the animalistic part of me, like wants to be in my body and not like um really feeling into it. And so the hoops and things was like a nice challenge of just like getting lost in those motions, and then it becoming your own language. And then there's just something really nice about, especially because I'll do double hoops, of just like the symmetry and the timing and like all of that. I just, because you're so in it, it just like completely takes me out of my head, and it just like takes me somewhere else. Like we have ecstatic dance here, like a pretty cool community. Obviously not now, but that is also like just like going somewhere and dancing for 2 hours straight. Like yeah, it just does it for me. And then adding the fire element to it was just a natural progression, and just like invigorating, really. But yeah, and I've always had like an extreme passion for music, and like, but I didn't play it. That wasn't like my thing, but I wanted to interact with it still. So like hula hooping especially is like a way that I can feel like I'm part of it more so.
Yeah, you have this really great attitude that I've always admired about you, that it's like kind of fun and funny and playful, but then there's also this like solar punk edge to you that's like no, I'm not gonna just do some fucking hippie woo woo shit and meditate it out because I don't, that doesn't feel right to me.
Yeah, totally.
And I like to hear from those people, like, okay, so even if it's not that foo style, like what is it that gets you there? And just by us talking about the dance and the flow, it sounds like the hula hooping and the fire spinning is, you know, takes you to that place of reset and recharges you.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's just like it it feels very hand in hand with like what I'm doing with this. Like just finding my own style within it. Like because it's also with things like that, there's definitely communities around it and whatnot. But I don't quite feel like I fit in that, like, I'm a hula hooper. It always seems weird, like me telling people too, because I'm like, well, I don't like hula hoop like that. But like, it's
like what my mom thinks I do, what my friends.
yeah, exactly. It's like, because it is like such like a kind of a weird, like flow toys are kind of weird. Like there's definitely a demographic that are into flow toys. And it's like, I don't always identify with everything that comes along with it. But I'm also obsessed with it. So yeah, but yeah, and I think it's just that whole flow state.
30 something years old going to the skate park. It's like, yeah, I know. I'm like
I know.
years old. I should know this.
Yep. Gotta keep young.
Oh, that's sweet.
hmm
So COVID, did that affect you like in any major way? I mean, obviously this has like thrown the collective or the gallery kind of, it just shuffled the deck. Doesn't sound like it's really ended it.
Yeah, totally. And it kind of it weirdly helped it because when when the so there was only the two girls that were running the whole thing. And then when they added four of us on, and it was just going to be like we already had things lined up, and it was just going to be like go go go. And so it wasn't really lined up for us to like really sit down and figure out what we wanted out of this. And then like we kind of had different visions too a little bit. And there was like a lot of discussion of like how are we going to make this profitable for us? And that never really sat well with me. I was like, well, we don't. We just like do it, and then things will come. Because like I feel like that's I don't know. I feel like that's how I've gotten success is just by like just doing it. Like not like it'll just come to you, and you'll track the right things if like you're doing it for the right reason and putting the energy into it. And then like I said, I was kind of like not crazy about the white wall gallery aspect of it. I more just wanted to play with the space. So yeah, so that kind of I mean for a bit it like kind of was like sucked, you know. But it's honestly it didn't I lost some gigs, and then the whole like not having the gallery to show work or other galleries to show work, and then certain mural projects fell through, and there's definitely like a month like or so where like I didn't make anything, and that like there's like this this moment where I was like I had put all of my self-worth into what I was creating, and because I wasn't creating at that time and like didn't really have an outlet as I was used to, it was just like a weird I don't know, I had definitely had to go through some like digging to figure out like why that was and how to detach all the worth off of one thing. So like my day-to-day life, I mean, I'm kind of just like an art hermit. I just kind of like show myself up in a space and just make, and that's what I was doing before, and that's what I was doing during COVID. And I think there was also this element of everyone was like, this is a great time for everyone to do their art projects. And like, I was like, I've already been doing the art projects. Now I don't want to. Like, now that everyone's like, you're going to have so much time. I was like, well, this is not different. Like, I don't like doing anything. So yeah, I definitely took the time, took some breaks, and did a lot of like inner work stuff, which felt good. Slowed down a bit. But yeah, I mean, for the most part, just kind of like getting to take a step back and figure out this space has been nice. I'm kind of ready for things to start changing.
Yep.
But at the same time, I don't know. It's like we adapt as humans so quickly that it's like I kind of like forget what it was like, to be honest.
Yeah. In the before time.
How has it been for you? Like, have you guys like, was it a drastic like shift?
Well, for me, I was let's see. I mean, for most of 2020, I worked at another retreat center in New York. Like, it's in Phoenicia. So yeah, it was like the world was like ending, and I was in like the most beautiful place ever with like yoga studios and abundant food and hiking. It was amazing. And then that job came to an end. Like they were just letting everybody go because they just didn't make it through the year. They were just shutting down even more. So I didn't really feel like 2020 was crazy until like right at the end of the year when I was trying to move. There was a pandemic going on. I was super stressed, and it just seemed like I had been the phone call to a lot of people that were going through their darkness like that whole year. And then it was just like, okay, here's your shit, like we didn't forget about you, it's just like we saved it to the end. And then now that I'm like in my new house, I'm in Woodstock, I'm like back in the world with bills, but everything is flowing again. Like I'm doing way better financially now, putting my energy back out into the world instead of like being this hermit that needed to retreat. And like I needed to be up in the woods for a while to heal and recover, but like now I'm back out and it feels better than ever. So it's kind of like it's interesting to say like I'm grateful for COVID because it forced me to change really rapidly into this new position that I'm actually pretty happy with.
Totally, yeah. There's definitely it was nice to like cocoon for a little bit. I think I've heard that with like a lot of people, that it was like just like to go inward and like just hibernate for a bit. And it seems like now people are all kind of like, okay, we're ready to come out now, like do the things. My one buddy, he's been describing 2020 as melodramatic because it's like it's been such a dramatic year, but it's also been super mellow because we're also like all at home, and it's just like this weird dynamic of like all this stuff is going on, but also like I've just been like chilling here.
Right.
Such a weird contrast, and just having everyone kind of go through it at the same time is bizarre. I mean, it's kind of like at Omega when we would have, you could feel like the difference between what groups were coming in each week. Like it's like, oh, this week feels a lot different because it's like this group is working on something super heavy, or like this group, it's like with Bobby McLaren and they're just singing the whole time. Like there's like, you could feel those like energy changes, and then to have like the whole world kind of go through that, it's like you kind of feel it, like, which is also like very like connected, but then it's that comparison, but we're all apart, so it's like we're all going through it together but separately. It's bizarre.
Yeah.
What about for you?
Starting this show was because of the pandemic. I mean, it's like, basically.
We kind of just said fuck it. I mean, we had tried to do it a year or two ago. I don't remember how long ago it was, but yeah, and then never took off. And then we're like, well, fuck it, let's just put something out. Let's just be doing stuff. Yeah, I mean, I saw it as like when pandemic hit, Yeah, I say this in a lot of weird ways, and I sort of feel guilty in some ways, but then I have to convince myself not. But it was one of the best years of my life, to be honest. Like, cause yeah, I turned inward. It was like, oh great, there's no parties, there's no anything going on. I don't have like any FOMO. I'm just gonna stay at home and work on music and level up and just really try to find myself and just push myself to do some more work, like to finish things. That was always like that's always been a struggle, and this one was just like, I'm gonna do a beat a day. I'm gonna post a beat every single day on YouTube or something, and just do these little things. And so yeah, I think for people like us who are okay with just sequestering and just I don't want any distraction. I just want to be by myself with my work and work on stuff and make things. I think it kind of worked out for us. Some people are very much about they need all of that interaction, and I think it was really hard for them. But yeah, for me, it didn't really bother me. I was fortunate I didn't have a lot of people close to me get sick or anything. So I think similar to Jesse, it was towards the end of the year that shit started to get real and way more challenging. Now I'm in kind of like just chaos mode. Like my laptop, all this is just like par for the course. Like my past month has just been nuts. I'm like, yeah, I'm ready for the COVID to end. So. But
I know, like, can you like imagine like being at a concert? Like, how do we phase back into that? Are we ever gonna shake people's hands again? Like,
I know.
are we gonna be elbow bumping like for the rest of our lives?
Forever.
That's it's just so awkward. It's like I don't have the flow for that. I gotta work on that or something. But so like it has put all these people home, or a lot of people home. And we sometimes talk a little bit about crypto on here. I don't know if you're a big Bitcoin maximalist or if you're buying any or holding any.
I'm so out of the loop.
But it's an exciting time. I mean, it's just an exciting time, and I don't know if you saw the news last week, but basically millennials on Reddit banded together and were able to disrupt a major position of a hedge fund.
Which is the internet's pretty cool and like
yeah,
like
exactly. I mean that
so
says so much about how much power just the generation of young people. I hate even saying generation millennial or Gen Z because it's just like just the youth, the people that are like really wanting a better world. Like we have the power if we communicate and choose to.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think like yes, this year like everything has just like gone haywire, but like it's so important for everything to crash and burn because like that's kind of how change happens, is like it all needs to be exposed, and it's gonna be ugly, and it's gonna be like such like a like just like a pit for a bit, and then and it's kind of like, okay, then we can rebuild.
That's the part of the pandemic. I mean, I hate to say this live on YouTube.
Oh no.
I don't know that we've seen the economic financial pandemic hit yet. Like
no, we haven't.
Everything are going right now are just obviously heavily inflated to like keep things running as usual or as normal as possible. But I mean, at some point, it's going to have to switch into something, or just come. I mean, otherwise, we're going to have more situations like we did last week coming up, and it's just going to be when those guys lose money regularly, they're not happy. I'm just telling you.
Oh, they're cheating now too. It's like beat them at their own game, and then it's like, oh well, actually no, that's not how this works. It's like, okay. Yeah, I know. It's definitely an interesting time to be alive.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, like, especially for artists and creative people, because I think like what sort of inspired this kind of like, and us kind of combining like talking about art, spirituality, and crypto is that I think both of us see this as like, this is a time when we can really start to build the economy on creativity. And this is the first time that technology and all the things are in place that we can start to do this and create a more egalitarian society that isn't like centralized and allows us to collaborate and to work on projects that aren't just purely for profit, to figure out ways to, like, up until now, money has only, like, has been decided, the way that money works has been decided by one authority, and now we're getting to a point where it's like all of us can kind of band together and decide what works for all of us, and is there a way that we can be sustainable without having to be just like purely profit driven, and like how are we going to make money though, and how is this going to get paid for? And because I mean, a lot of the things that you're mentioning are questions that I feel like I've heard myself utter, you know, like how does this work, and I don't want to, and we're not really turning that much profit, and how does this, you know, all that stuff. But I think we're just at such a pivotal moment that I think it's really important that artists, especially people like, you know, like you who are doing it and successful, can like sort of share what you're doing, and like the outer process of it, and the, but I guess both inner and outer process with other people to inspire them to like be, we can all do this. Let's all jump on this pirate ship, you know, let's build it.
Yeah, it is like such a pivotal time, and especially I think like our generation is kind of like, it's super interesting because we didn't grow up with it all in our face with all technology, and we didn't grow up on a screen, but we definitely are in it now and adapted it, and we're the ones that are like, you know, it's so much part of our world. Because these next generations, especially with like how schooling is right now, all on screens, like that's going to be interesting to see how that like has an effect on the young ones and everything. But yeah, just like being able to witness how things can drastically shift like in our world is super exciting. And obviously there's going to be a lot of like abruption, because when you're trying to change something, it's gonna, you know, there's a lot of people who don't like change at all. And yeah, it's exciting. And it is like, I hope that with this year too, hopefully the whole like way people see how you should be working a 40-hour week, or how you need to be like in the office for 8 hours a day, hopefully that shifts for humans, because that's not the most like one, it's not the most productive, and two, that's not how people's lives should be. It gives them no time to do anything for themselves, which then creates more unhappy people. And like for things to work, like it needs to start here, and so people need to be able to have the time to like give themselves, you know, the nourishment and the activities that they need that makes them feel alive. So yeah, hopefully something with that shifts. Yeah.
It will.
Yeah, it sounds like
totally.
It sounds like you're putting yourself around the right people, you know, to witness the shift in a positive way. You know, you could obviously, you could be making other decisions and, you know, surrounding yourself with other people where the world would be shitty. I mean, we're both, we live in that, like you know, whether we live in heaven or hell is kind of like up to us.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Like your mind space on whatever situation you're in, you're kind of, I don't know. I always thought like to an extent, you're co-creating your reality with the universe. Like, you know, you kind of get to choose who you want to be. And I think a lot of people forget that. So yeah, important to figure out what makes you tick in the right ways and in the wrong ways, and like how you can be, I don't know, the most efficient human for yourself. And I feel like that kind of stuff like ripples out.
Totally.
Yeah. And I think that's also like a big change is a lot of people are becoming more mindful. And yeah, like more just aware of what's going on in the world and how we affect it. So weird times. But it's cool.
Well, thank you for rocking the ship.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for also rocking the ship.
So is there any like near future projects you want to shout out, or people, friends, or anything of that nature before we?
Yeah, totally. So, well, I'm super pumped about this space. Keep your eyes out. It's gonna be sweet. We're gonna do live streams too, live DJ streams and whatnot. Um, but yeah, we have a pretty cool. It was supposed to happen this past year, but this nonprofit called Pangea Seed is coming through. They do mural festivals, and so they'll come to a city and bring some artists from international or wherever, and then also the artists that actually live in that city are part of it as well. So yeah, in June they're coming here, and they're all about like ocean awareness and whatnot, like environmental. And so yeah, they'll come here and it'll be a 10-day thing, and there'll be like 10, 15 new murals in Santa Cruz, which is pretty exciting. And yeah, I'm super pumped to meet some of the muralists that come in. I'm totally blanking out on the one guy who's coming. I don't know if you're familiar with his work, especially because I don't know his name. So I'm just going to describe it. But he does.
That guy.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you know that guy? He's coming here. Yeah, he's gonna be great. But he does these murals that they're done in like blue and red, and then when you put on the 3D glasses, it like changes
Oh,
the way
sweet.
you see it. So yeah, it will be nice to like to meet muralists that are just like crushing walls. Yeah, so that's exciting. I'm in the midst of lining up my first mural out of the country, which I'm pumped on.
Oh wow!
Yeah, it's the way it's lining up is so just like lovely, and but there's still a lot of details to work out. But yeah, so it should be in Brazil at this place, this like retreat place that's in the kind of like deep in the Amazon jungle. So that would be my first time there too. So
Sick.
yeah.
So,
So hopefully more of like that in the future. That's like definitely what I want to call in is like more travel and murals abroad and whatnot. Yeah. So that's the it.
yeah. Well, awesome. Thanks so much, for sharing your insights and really, and sharing the cool space. I'm so excited. Hopefully, I'd love to come out to California sometime
Yeah,
and
you
see
guys
it.
are
And y'all are
always
doing something.
welcome. And you're in Austin, right? Is that
Yeah.
what I'm assuming? I kind of just threw out Austin, but I figured if you're in Texas, that's probably.
Yeah. That's a safe bet.
Sweet, yeah. I know some rad people out there that are also trying to do rad things. I may scoot their names to you at some point, and
Please do. Yeah.
yeah, so it's always nice. Just like you seem to be like on the same kind of path of like creating experiences and like.
I wouldn't be surprised if we know similar people.
Oh yeah, I'm sure. I feel like the world just gets smaller. Oh, actually, so the mural in Brazil. So they have a retreat center too. So I'm going to go on a retreat as well there. But one of the girls who's going to be in the retreat is sisters with someone at Omega. Why am I blanking out on her name? On the spot. Maddie. Do you remember Maddie?
Okay.
Twerking all the time.
Right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah, so her sister is going to be there too. So small world. So, you may even know the people that I'm thinking about in Austin, but yeah. So yeah, it's nice to just start connecting with all the people's doing all the things. And yeah, and it's rad to like meet you and also get to sit down with you again, Jesse. And yeah, like the Omega connections are always just like so special. And it's been so nice like keeping in touch with everyone, even though like we haven't like seen each other forever. And it's just like, oh, like just like cheering everyone on from afar is fun. Yeah.
Totally. Yeah, you are an inspiration to me, and I'm sure to many other people. So congratulations on your mural. Human shaped animal. I will never call you Rachel Barnes again. But the other part of the show is that we want to just keep cross pollinating with like minded people and creatives.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, we hope that you come back to the show when you want to promote something else or one of your other projects.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. And I'll be tuning in.
All right. All right.